I want you to imagine if somebody spent your money and borrowed more without your consent, it would be illegal, right? They could face jail. It'd be fraud. It'd be something. But this is exactly how we elect our government. They don't require the consent of the majority. Generally speaking, the only currency that should matter in a democracy is the number of votes. There should be no other currency that means anything, right? So the veto makes the voter sovereign. It makes the number of votes the only currency that really matters. So it starts to take money out, the influence of money out of politics, and then therefore money will not go into politics because it doesn't have that much influence. If you are someone who's wondering why the UK is being run into the ground and how to fix it, more importantly, this could be the most important podcast you've ever listened to in your life. Big claim, and I hope to be able to justify it shortly. So hang on. Hello and welcome to the People's Ballot. This is our first episode. My name is Rohin Vadera, and I'm the founder of a website called the VETOcampaign.com, and we advocate for the addition of an option to veto elections on the ballot. And if you are someone who is wondering why the UK is being run into the ground and how to fix it, more importantly, this could be the most important podcast you've ever listened to in your life. Big claim, and I hope to be able to justify it shortly. So hang on, see you in a minute. So this one simple reform called the veto option could be an absolute game changer for UK elections and other elections around the world, to be honest. They all suffer from the same flaw. And before we dig into it, let me just give a bit of background here. This veto option derives from work done previously between myself and Mr. Jamie Stanley, very clever guy. And everything on that we're talking about can be found on his website as well. However, there's a slightly different emphasis, but just to get that out of the way. So here's a bunch of unhappy people who think their vote doesn't matter, and it's true. Their vote doesn't matter. And I can tell you why. If someone borrowed your money and spent it without your consent, they would be jailed. It's a criminal act. That's exactly how we run our elections. Or we run it in a way what we describe as lead, follow, get out of the way. It doesn't require majority consent. It requires just a small fraction of the total vote, and then they can do what they like. So we're not being represented by people in government. We're being ruled. And bit by bit, they're not only making laws, spending money without a consent, they're also taking away our rights, which is also extremely bad. And it seems like we can't stop them. And we can't stop them because they don't require majority consent. That's the firewall. The veto option being brought in would trigger a rerun if the majority chose it. So that makes the voter sovereign. That brings in the firewall. So first past the vote ballot doesn't make any sense because if you vote for anyone on the ballot, you're giving your consent for anyone on the ballot to represent you. So this slide, we have a bunch of people looking very unhappy, and so they should be because their vote doesn't matter. Well, most of our votes don't matter. And there's a very simple reason for that. And I want you to imagine if somebody spent your money and borrowed more without your consent, it would be illegal, right? They could face jail. It'd be fraud. It'd be something. But this is exactly how we elect our government. They don't require the consent of the majority. This is the crux of the issue. This is the crux of the matter. This is this is the fulcrum of why everything is going wrong. It's okay if we have people, political parties or people in power who are doing a reasonable job. But once they lose control, they go crazy, or all the options are, let's face it, all the options are pretty bad right now. There's very little we can do about it. Some idiotic party will get into power and do idiotic things and make a mess of everything and just run everything into the ground. So the idea is to have an option to veto elections that will trigger a rerun if a majority choose it. So that brings consent into the electoral process, which makes it democratic. Otherwise, what we have is what I describe as elected oligarchy, where we're ruled and we're not represented. So these are some slides showing up some stats here about how Labour won the vast majority of seats in Parliament with 20% total electorate, about 60 percent voted. It has 60% turnout. It's a lower turnout since lowest turnout since 2006. I'm sorry, 2001. And they got 20% total electorate. It's very unlikely that the majority of people gave their consent for this government, this party to form a government. And we're paying a big price for it. And some more stats from the Electoral Reform Society. A lot of people vote tactically just to stop the most damaging party and choose a slightly less damaging party, which is, a stupid way to run elections. And then prior to 2024, which was a seismic change in UK politics, and it's continuing, there was a lot of stagnation, and you could see that political parties had lost their way. The Conservative Party was in power 14 years. They were useless, or worse than useless. They did nothing. They just made everything worse. And now I'm sorry for the people who support Conservatives, support Labour. I think Labour have come along and making things worse now. And what are the other options? Liberal Democrats, nothing there. Reformists, inexperienced. Green Party is, I think they're bonkers. Shoot me. I don't, just. I think we're very much stuck. We require some kind of major reset. Only people who can save the UK are UK voters. We live with the consequences of the decisions made by the government, so we should have the final authority over the government. And that's what the veto does. It makes the voter sovereign. We will. We have the greatest incentive to make things right. So we should be in charge. That's the basic point we're trying to make. The idea that we can vote a political party and they'll fix things. Well, they might, but all the forces that turn the previous political parties into a bunch of jokers are going to change the next any good political party into a bunch of jokers eventually anyway. So you can't rely on political parties to govern effectively uh, without voters being able to control them. So this is restating what I said before. All electoral models are currently lead, follow, get out of the way. The voter isn't sovereign, and the electoral process is not democratic. This is the problem we have. So this is a very interesting bar chart, and it's interesting because you can see it's common all around the world: Australia, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Spain, Sweden, UK, and USA. It's not cherry picked, right? This is very typical of what you find in the Western world, that we elect political parties, of which we have little to no confidence. So is that democracy? Do we really elect people in which we have no confidence, and then we call it democracy? It's not. Obviously, it's not. It can't be. How can it be? If we had a democracy, at least some of the time we'd trust these people. Can you imagine if we could live in an environment where we could actually trust what is being said to us by political parties, political leaders? Currently, you can't believe a word they say. They all have reasons to lie. The opposition party wants things, paint things to be much worse than they are. The party in power wants to paint things to be much better than they are, and they all have various reasons to bend the truth and not tell us the truth and hide things. And I think I don't need to spell it out for everyone what's going on in the UK now. It's pretty grim in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm smiling, but things are not good, are they? So here in the UK, you can see that over 80% don't have any trust in political parties, and it's similar to whether you have proportional representation or you have first past the post. Generally speaking, nobody trusts political parties. The issue is the lead, follow, get out of the way electoral model. There has to be a veto option. So in proportional representation, the way it would work is that in general, there's a lot of different types of PR systems. So in general, what would it be? The percentage of veto with the percentage of empty seats, right? So currently, we assign all seats in proportional representation without ensuring everyone who wanted to vote had representation. So you end up with MPs who don't represent a single voter, which is also bonkers, and which is, I think, in my opinion, why we see such high levels of lack of confidence in political parties in PR systems as well, because there are a bunch of people in there who don't represent anyone, and they make mess of things. It's just as much as they do over here. And this is a slide about a study by Princeton academics that show that a small sliver of the population has a massive say in the way things are run in the USA. And generally speaking, the only currency that should matter in a democracy is the number of votes. There should be no other currency that means anything, right? So the veto makes the voter sovereign. It makes the number of votes the only currency that really matters. So it starts to take money out, the influence of money out of politics, and then therefore money will not go into politics because it doesn't have that much influence. So reiterating what I've been saying earlier, uh, once things go out of control, there's very little we can do to bring them back into control, right? What can we do? I mean, we are divided as a nation. We're split between various political parties, right? So the least unpopular at that moment gets to be in power. It's not like they're not like anyone really wants them. It's just they're the least unpopular at that moment. And now the labor is crashing. It's just absolutely what a disaster. And then we don't have good representation. We have these political divides created by political parties. What a stupid way to live. How can we be divided by political parties? How dumb is that? Ridiculous. Of course, the people who end up in political parties now are extremists. They're ideological, extremely ideological. They do things based on their ideology, not based on realism. So they have certain beliefs, and then it's like a religious thing for them, and they just do it, and they don't even think about second order effects, what the effects are in the real world. So you get this kind of very poor governance, and then they're not solving any problems, are they? And then I'm sure, yeah, people are disillusioned. So here's the solution: put a veto option on ballots for legislative elections. We don't propose it for executive elections because you need to have somebody in charge for an executive function, but for MPs and councillors and things like that, you should have a veto option, and that starts to put us back into control. I'll explain why. So how it would function in first past the post elections, there would be a rerun within 3 to 6 months. The majority chose it. So now, not everyone, you don't have to vote for the person uh, for them to be in charge. You just have to give your consent. There might be two or three options on the ballot. You say, I don't mind any one of these two, three winning. This is the one I prefer the most. But one of these other ones, I'd be fine with it. That's okay, right? But you can't be choosing a party. You can't vote in an election where you think the person's going to win. Oh, I can't stand the guy. What's the point of voting? You have to, what the veto does is provides an umbrella option for all the different people who are against the status quo to come together and choose to veto. And if it's a majority, then the political process is reset. That's why the vote is now sovereign. That means it's democratic. Majority consent is required. That's fundamental to democracy. And modern models no longer lead, follow, get out of the way. There's a crucial fourth option. So this is what we face often. It's like there's someone we like, no chance of winning, so we got to choose the less evil. It's just stupid, isn't it? Isn't it? Am I wrong? Isn't it just crazy the way we set everything up? We're creating a vast electoral system, and then we do a half-assed job, and just like everything else we do is half-assed. The electoral system is half-assed. What's the point of going through all this, arranging elections, all this stuff we're doing, and giving the power to spend trillions of pounds, and then we got this half-assed way of running elections? What's the point of it? So when do you use the veto? It's not just if you have no, if you're unlikely to get representation, that's when you use the veto. If the person you want to win, you're not sure they're going to win, then I think you should veto. Why should you take a chance if there's a 50-50 chance of your guy going to win? Why should you take a chance? You should be guaranteed representation. I mean, does the political system work for us, or do we serve the political system? Are we just fuel for it, or are we the owners of it? And you can choose it to draw attention to specific issues. I think we all know about the recent issue of grooming gangs that operate for decades under the cover. Uh, but if the veto option was there, could people have made their voice heard to bring attention to this issue? You know, maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Any reason you see fit. I mean, this is it. You're sovereign. You're in charge of the country. We're in charge of the country. So if you want to veto, just veto and let the system take care of it. itself. The assumption that this veto is based on is that democracy works. As I said, we live with the consequences of our decisions, so we have the greatest incentive to make sure that we make our lives better. Yes, and the veto makes a sovereign, very US-looking slide here. But it's so there are other benefits to having the veto option. One of the most crucial, important ones is that it measures public dissatisfaction. So I don't think there's going to be often where majority people choose veto, but once veto is chosen and there are people of good faith in the political establishment operating on our behalf, the veto option provides them with critical information because it provides information on the number and the geographic location of public satisfaction. So how do they know their policy works, right? How do they know there's some kind of second order effects going on that they didn't foresee? Well, they can take a look at the number of vetoes and study them and analyze them and decide what's worked, what hasn't worked, where resources are required. People can put their hands up and say, look, you've left me out. What about me? Fair enough, isn't it? Right? We all should have a voice. We all should have a say. So incentivizes improved governance. If they go too far out of control, there's no one get elected. There have to be a reset, right? And then it creates this continuous feedback that every election they have to think about the next election and make sure that they're doing a good job. Otherwise, the number of vetoes will increase, and then we can have major change without major upheaval. Right now, oh my God, you know, we're going through 4 or 5 years of possible Labour government who nobody wants, and everyone thinks they're doing a bad job. Maybe they'll suddenly turn it around and do something great, but everything I see them do is just stupid. They just take a bad situation and make it worse, and then there's finger pointing. They point fingers at each other. Oh, the Conservatives did this, and yeah, they probably did, but I don't care. I want you to fix it. And then this I won't go into the political party stuff currently, but I don't think political parties in their current form will survive if a veto option is on the ballot. I think it will change. There will be big changes, in my opinion. We want to maximize the common good. If there's a democracy, then wouldn't we want to make the society as good as possible for as many people as possible? Isn't that what we want to do? So we would tend to maximize the common good, right? An elected oligarchy, political parties make it as good as they can for themselves. Obviously, that's what they'll tend to do. They come first. We come second. A man cannot serve two masters. Your MP cannot serve you and his political party. He's got to choose one or the other, and he's choosing on the side where his bread is buttered. A fair amount of the time, and those are the ones who get to the top. Ones with integrity, they'll be on the back benches. So one of the most important things to understand is that the veto cannot win on a plurality. It's undemocratic and it'll make it less effective. You've got to give these guys a chance to fix things. If 20-30% are choosing to veto, okay, that's quite a lot of vetoes, but you can't redo elections based on 20-30%. You've got to give them a chance to, let's give them a chance to fix it, right? Reduce the number of vetoes. And obviously then you can start having a lot of reruns. There have been cases where uh, a veto type option has been there and it won on plurality, that they would run, and there were two reruns in a row with about 20-25% of people choosing it. It doesn't work. It's not a good idea. So this also is very crucial to understand, is that even if a small number of people choose to veto, can still have a huge influence on the way we are governed. Because when the election takes place, the difference between first and second place could be less than 10%. And this bar chart shows you how many seats were won with a margin of 10% or less. And in 2024, last year, 221 seats were won with a less than 10% margin. So once the number of vetoes crosses is larger than the difference between first and second place, then the person who won has to start governing by taking into account what the veto people wanted. Otherwise, he might not win the next election. So it starts making the voter more important, the political party less important, which is why I think political parties won't survive. It changes the dynamic, and I think we should have democracy. I think voters matter. That's all I care about. That's what I think. That's what it's all about. I think make voters matter. That's what I think. And there's a little flow chart here. What would happen If greater than 50%, there'd be a rerun in 3 to 6 months. Less than 50%, is the veto more than margin of victory? Then yes, then the winner will have to think ahead to the next election and make sure that he governs or she governs uh, and takes into account what the people who chose veto wanted. So it improves governance. It improves governance continuously. And this is about what I talked about previously about proportional representation. The general principle is a percentage veto equals percentage empty seats. And as I said, without a veto option, there'll be an unknown number of MPs that don't represent a single voter. You can't assign all the seats without ensuring everyone wants to vote was represented. Those seats have got to be kept empty. That means in future elections, people can turn up and start finding out what representation they want and fulfill their representational needs. And also, it keeps the people in parliament currently in check because quite often they have to form coalitions to govern. And do the coalitions uh, have work on behalf of voters or not? If they don't work on behalf of voters, there'll be even more empty seats in the next election. So it keeps that pressure on politicians to serve us, incentivizes good governance. So there you go. Yeah. So this is the summary here. Electoral systems risk undemocratic outcomes. The option makes the voter sovereign, and the sovereign voters encourage good governance. There you go. I think it's a good idea. This is nice to talk about. Once the only thing that matters is votes, then money matters less. So money will leave the political system because it doesn't buy outcomes. If it doesn't buy outcomes, then the people who like money, who go into politics to make money, they won't enter politics because there's no money to be made there. So you start getting people of integrity entering politics. So reduce special interest, improves political discourse because currently there's a lot of fear mongering. Everyone just says the craziest things about everyone else. I'm I'm sick of all this, a lot of the stuff. Too much negative, uh, you know, campaigning will result in more vetoes. So it'll reduce the strategic importance of having, fear mongering, and it'll improve the political discourse and focus on governing. So, and politicians will no longer put in political hacks into non-elected positions, as favors. They'll put in people who can actually do a good job because they need people to do a good job so they can get elected again. And then we'll start having faith in institutions again. And then we can perhaps uh, get long-term solutions because we're not constantly chopping and changing. Like conservatives did this and Labour turn up and they don't do anything conservatives did because they hate them. Whether it was good or bad, it's irrelevant. It's just stupid. And yeah, there you go. So I am very. If you have any questions, please comment, like, subscribe, and comment below. If you have any questions, I'll be so happy to answer any questions anyone has anytime. I'll do an episode on it if people are interested. I really hope people are interested in this. If you think I'm stupid, I'm crazy, this is your idiotic idea, bring it on. I'll go anywhere, anytime, uh, any place to debate this option. I think this is a fantastic option, highly underrated, very much overlooked. Okay. Uh, there's one more thing I'd like you to do is that I want you. The call to action is to sign a petition. I'm trying to get this petition to over 10,000 signatures, and then I can start to build credibility for this option and take it to people, take it to various bigwigs, take it to people, get taken seriously, get on other podcasts and get a discussion going on this. So in a moment, I want to put up the QR code for the petition. Please, please, please sign the petition, share, and try to get other people to sign the petition. So this is the QR code for the petition. Please go and sign the petition. Please like, subscribe, and share. All the links will be in the description below. Please sign the petition. Thank you so much.